So I am going to start. Thank you, councillors, and welcome to the meeting today. Another Zoom meeting, and I don't think this is going to be the last meeting by Zoom. But I'm going to first of all start with our council blessing, as we usually do, and then I'm actually going to ask you in your places to stand. Because we're going to have a moment's silence for Nora Martinetti. Nora Martinetti is a long-time resident of Otaryri. She was, her and her husband farmed out that way, but Nora was also a community board chairperson in Tito for many years. She also had a QSM for services to the South Waikato community. She was also very involved with Kuranui School. She was on the Plaza Committee at one stage, and she was also a very strong supporter of victim support in the district. So just a moment's silence for her as well. So I'm just going to ask you to stand now, please, for the blessing, and then just a moment's silence. Thank you, everybody. As we deliberate on the issues before us, we trust that we will reflect positively on the communities that we serve. Let us all seek to be effective and just, so that with courage, vision and energy, we provide positive leadership in a spirit of harmony and compassion. Thank you, everyone. Right, so the meeting is open. I am going to introduce you to Debbie, who is sitting over to my right, and I'll just get you to say a couple of words, if you will, because this is your first meeting with all the elected members. Debbie's here. Oh, Miriam, can I get you to do that? No, let Debbie introduce herself. Let Debbie introduce herself. All right, thank you. Councillors. Debbie, would you like to...
Good morning, councillors. Nice to be here, and sorry that I'm unable to meet you in person, but hopefully at some point soon we can do that. So I've stepped into Gordon's role just as interim DM for 6 months. We've worked previously at Hamilton City Council and then Waikato District Council, but I'm very pleased to be here.
Welcome, Debbie. Can I just request for those councillors, can you put your microphones on mute unless you're talking? It's just that we've got quite a bit of feedback noise coming through. Can I just ask that? That'll make it nice and easy for the recording as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, let's start on the order of business. We've got apologies. I've had an apologies from Councillor Naylor, who is not going to be here this morning. He will be here after lunch, if we are still going after lunch. Is Councillor Petley online?
Apologies from Councillor Petley. He's got a funeral later today.
Thank you. That's correct. He had let me know. So I have an apology from Councillor Petley as well. So can I have a mover and a seconder for those apologies, please? Thank you, Councillor Machin. Seconded, please, Councillor Shorten. Thank you. All those in favour? No. Against? Carried. Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda. The agenda is as it is today. We will be going from the public meeting straight into community and assets, and then we will be doing non-public at the end of the public business. We will then be going into non-public councillors only for a discussion. So perhaps Councillor Naylor will be here for that. So that's the agenda. Can I just have a mover and a seconder for the agenda, please? Whose is it?
Happy to.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace is moving it. Councillor, I can see Councillor Sugar. Thank you. It's seconding it. Leave of absences. Are there any leaves of absences to be recorded? No. Any conflicts of interest in the agenda today? Thank you. So we go straight into the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, which was Thursday the 24th of February. And these, we'll do the public minutes first. These are on pages 6, page 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. And I'm looking for any matters of fact in those minutes. Now, we are starting to trim those minutes down because we have got the recordings that people can go back to if they have any issues. So we are attempting to just be recording resolutions in the minutes. So any matters of fact? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for them, please? Okay, I think probably we might. Thank you. Councillor Glusina is moving them, and Councillor. Oh, thank you. Matters arising. Oh, yep, I'll do that right now. So I've got Councillor Glusina moving them. Councillor Dane, are you happy to second them? Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I'm looking for matters arising now, and there is one that I will follow up on. The information request where we had Waikato Regional Council Civil Defence Emergency Management, that they wanted to acknowledge the 3 recipients. I have got their certificates here. We will be getting the certificates out to Andrew Pascoe, Andrew McFadgen and Stu Aston, because we're not actually able to get together with them at the moment. They are working from home. But we will, when we are back to some semblance of normal, we will get them in for our.
Andrew's finished, of course, but he is still in camp, so that's good.
Yes, that's right. But we will get them in for morning tea.
Yep.
So that's that one. Are there any other matters arising? No? Thank you. Let's move on then to the Tiro Community Board minutes. We're all good? Okay, thank you. Tiro Community Board minutes on pages 14, 15 and 16. Ms Purdy, we're actually looking for, that's good, thank you. Yep, that's cool, thank you. We are looking for matters of fact in here, but have you got any comments, Ms Purdy? And welcome.
No, everything's okay. We're just waiting for to get things moving again, obviously due to the hold up with COVID. Yeah, so there are things that are standing still.
How are you? Because I understood you were pretty crook with COVID.
I unfortunately have long COVID, so I'm still ill. I've been a month now. So yeah, and my tests come back as negative, but they reckon it's long COVID at the hospital. Yeah. So it's been great. Sarcasm there.
Yes, you just need to look after yourself. That's for sure. All right, so there are no matters of fact. I'm going to have a mover and a seconder. So Ms Purdy, would you like to move the minutes? Okay, thank you. And can I have a seconder for the minutes, please? Councillor Napel. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And I'm after matters arising now. Are there any? No, good, thank you. Moving on then to Merrell Report, the first of reports, 6.1, that's mine. My report, just an update of the activities I've been involved in. I'm going to move my report. I would like a seconder, Councillor Machin.
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Are there any matters arising? Would anybody like any questions or comments? That's what I like, thank you. Moving on to 6.2, we've got the delegations manual update. So that's from Stevie Arve, our policy officer. Who's taking us through?
Your Worship, can I just make a comment here?
Yes, please.
Going forward, I would recommend that these delegation changes, which just arise because of structural changes, can probably be handled in-house, rather than having to come on a case-by-case basis. That's my experience. In terms of overall delegations in the manual, that's a different thing, but these ones are to do with changes in the structure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so because we've got different positions, that's why we've got delegation changes. And I don't think it's necessary for them to come to council every time.
Okay. So when do we actually do the full delegations manual? I think that hasn't come to us for a long time.
It's come in the last couple of years.
So-
I didn't recall this thing really.
No, it's longer than that.
So the delegations manual for council would be quite significant.
Yes, it is. It's a big thing. Yes.
And so that would get reviewed not too often in its entirety because it's quite a piece of work, but that would come to council probably every triennium at some stage.
So question, when I look at the leisure services manager's role, and I am moving into operational here, $100,000 payment is a big amount to have delegated authority over. What would that, just as an example, what would that cover?
That would be probably a project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely to be very often.
Yeah.
So that level of delegation is appropriate.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm happy with that.
But I just wanted to raise that. I mean, you can review the delegations in their entirety in terms of overarching delegations. When you
Yes,
set the chief executive's delegations, and then
Yeah.
they cascade from that.
that's right.
But in terms of these ones, they're very straightforward.
Okay. Everyone happy with that?
Yep.
Oh, Stevie, there you are.
Oh,
Hi.
Stevie might want to make some comments.
Yes.
Is Rma talking to us or not? She's,
No, she's talking elsewhere.
oh, okay.
Hi, I don't
Sid.
know what to say now. Yes, because hello everyone, happy St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, I'm just bringing this report on behalf of the Leisure Services, of course, and Ted. And this in part was due to the restructure, and we're just asking for your approval on. As you can see on my table summary, all the delegations to reflect the new roles and the disestablished roles.
And so Stevie, just confirming, we're not changing delegations, we're changing the roles where the delegations apply, but we haven't lifted our delegations level.
I believe we are adding the new Leisure Services Manager's role,
Yes, that's correct.
updating those financial delegations, yes.
All right, so do we bring it back, and I totally accept if it's just a change of role, but if it's a new role, is that appropriate to come back to us?
In terms of roles across council, if delegations get set on those roles, so if you're a corresponding manager and you're relevant to another manager, then your delegation should be relevant to that.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that those delegations work, and they're not generally brought back to council on an individual approval basis.
Okay.
If you have any major issues, it's set with the chief executive who's tasked under their delegations to do that.
Of course.
And that's how it works.
Okay, no, I got that. All right, thank you. Thank you, Stevie. So I have got two recommendations there, councillors, that we receive the report and that the recommended amendments for this paper be approved and then adopted. Councillor Lee?
Happy to move, yeah.
And a seconder, please. Councillor Wallace. Thank you. Any comments or anything?
Oh, Rma, you're on mute, Rma.
I think she's talking to someone else.
Can I just make a comment for while we wait for Rma?
Councillor Day.
I struggle to understand why a leisure service manager would need authority to pay out $100,000. I really can't get my head around that, because any project, they're a leisure service manager. They're not, you know, the project isn't the one that come under someone else. That's a lot of money to give authority for, just to manage the pools and the event centre and the airport.
So Councillor Dane, Debbie might actually explain a little bit about the pool, and then I might add at the end of that as well about how delegations and authorisations work, to put you at, to make sure you're comfortable about controls around expenditure. But Debbie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so that's not an uncommon level of delegation. It just is an example of a project. So the new pool, the pool renewal that's coming up, that might require that level of delegation. So projects that run into the millions, capital projects, you do really require a reasonably hefty delegation just to cover off those things.
Can you give me an example?
So
Pool pump, how much?
If we had to buy a couple of pool pumps, you're probably speaking over $100,000.
Yeah. And the other thing, Councillor Dane, so to assure you, delegations give delegation to a particular officer within council to spend up to that limit. But there are other checks and balances about expenditure. So there's always two authorisations on expenditure. So the person raising the purchase order or the item is not the person that authorises it. So your delegations give you authority to be one of those, but not both. And then they also have to go through finance as well. So all of that, there's lots of checks and balances.
Okay, yeah, okay then, thank you. Yeah, maybe that clarifies it.
Good, thank you. Right, moving on then, 6.3, we've got the adoption of the waste assessment. And it was, the report has been written by Lynn Kenny. Lynn is not here today, she's not able to be here to present it. Mr. Anderson, you're presenting it on her behalf, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just before we start, I will say Councillor Naylor, although he is not here today, did make comment that he fully supported the waste assessment and that we adopt it. So he is putting his weight behind this report. So Mr. Anderson, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take the report as read. As the report details, we normally would review our waste management and minimisation plan every 6 years, but you can review it more frequently. And a lot of things have changed in the last 4 years since we last adopted the waste management plan. And the key thing is that we're starting to get a lot more money back from MFE in terms of those waste levies. It has historically been about $90,000 a year, and it's likely to increase up to maybe $500,000 a year by 2024. We have to spend that levy in a way that is covered in our waste management plan. So up until now, we've been a little bit light on details about initiatives, and so it's, as a result, we think it's timely for us to review the waste management plan. This is the first part of a three-part process. It is likely this is a fairly dry bit of paper. It covers the key aspects. It sets the premise of going forward. The details will actually come in the next iteration, where we start talking about what it is we're going to support and how we're going to support that. So that's where the I guess more discussion will occur. Just one other point, Council does not need to formally adopt this document. However, it's best practice to do that, and MFE would prefer that Council formally adopts this.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for that. Councillors, there is an attachment 6.3 that has got the assessment document there. When I was reading it, I jumped to, I think we're looking at, let's see, page 46, 44, 46, and it was the options, the statement of options and other of services, infrastructure, data, education, engagement, and I think they were proposals of what could occur going forward, and it's identified the status quo and then other options, and I think what's been proposed so far and what could be taken forward, yeah, those are the ones. Thank you, Billy. I think that there's some really good opportunities in there and good projects that would certainly see us more using the income, but also achieving more income. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there any comments from any elected members?
Yeah, Sandra, I thought it was really good too. I thought there were some really cool things in there. I really like the the idea of the food waste being collected and how that has a big impact in what rubbish is. So it was a very interesting report to read.
It was, wasn't it? Do you know, a few years ago now, South Waikato District Council did a putrescibles trial in Tararoo. We were in the very early stages of it, and it was a very successful trial. Every household got a little container for under the sink, but unfortunately it cost in those days so much that we weren't actually able to continue it. The impact cost on ratepayers was quite significant, but I'm sure those costs.
Yeah, no.
Were you around in those days, Sandra?
Yes, I do remember. It was very cool. Yes.
Yeah, it was excellent. All right then, if there are no comments and everybody's happy with that, with the assessment, has anybody got anything to add here? Thank you.
Yeah, Your Worship, could.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Your Worship. I put my hand up, but I just thought you wouldn't want to notice that.
Sorry, Councillor Lee.
Yeah, I thought the Ms. Kenny produced a very good report, actually, and it was good to see that we're actually gaining money and not losing money. The option of the food scrap bin is a good idea when you look at the stats of how much goes actually into the rubbish, how much food scrap actually goes in. Plus, I was just wondering if maybe Ted could answer about would we also get the option of a green waste bin, please?
Mr. Anderson.
That is an option that council could consider. Those are the, I know other councils in New Zealand have the much larger wheelie bins available for green waste, and that is an option we could consider. I think the key is that going forward, the waste levy is going to, so that's anything that goes to landfill is going to be charged a real premium, and the premium that is charged on top of the cost of landfilling it comes into this grant that comes back to councils to use in initiatives. So it means that things that were in the past that weren't cost effective to do, like the food scrap collections, can now be done because we're getting that extra revenue. And similarly, the green waste is an option that council could consider, and that could include grass clippings or exclude grass clippings. Those are all things that we need to discuss as part of the next part of the assessment.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. Just one other question, and it's to do with the amount of paper going into the rubbish. It's quite high. I was just surprised that that paper isn't actually going into the recycle.
Yeah. In actual fact, sorry if I may, Your Worship, quite often some of the paper is contaminated through like it comes around meat wrappings and things like that, which does not make it suitable as as paper recycling, but that would be suitable to be included in your household, organic household collection if we do the food scraps. And so those bits can actually go through the earthworms. So once that option is open, it does definitely give us an opportunity to reduce the total waste going to our landfills.
Yeah, thanks, Ted, because I think it was about 9%. It seemed quite high for paper, but yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion comments? All right, thank you. I'm going to put the motion then that we adopt the waste assessment, we receive it and we adopt it. Have I got a mover and a second?
Councillor Lee's happy to move it.
Councillor Lee is moving it. Councillor Shorter is seconding. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Now, what I'm going to do to try and make it easier, sorry, Councillor Lee, I did miss you. Down the bottom of your screen, there is a little icon that says chat. And it's reactions. So if you click on the reactions, you'll see a thumbs up or a clap or something like that.
There's more as well.
Yeah. So if you want to speak, could you please go to reactions and put a thumbs up, and then I'll know that you want to speak. Or the reactions one I think is probably the best one, and then I will see that because it comes up in the corner of your screen, and I know you want to speak, just so that I don't miss anybody. All right. Cool. Thank you. Let's move on again then to 6.4, and we've got a report. Vicky's here. The election 2022, we're getting closer to the elections in October. Order of candidates' names on the voting paper. While we're here, I do want to just have a little bit of a chat about the elections, about the pre-election period, what we as sitting elected members are able to do and not able to do. So between Vicky and Kerry Fabry, I think there's going to be a bit of a tag team between you, isn't there? But I will hand over to Vicky if you would like to present your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. Okay, this now for the benefit of the new councillors, this is a paper that needs to be voted on every election, pre-election. And what it is the order of the candidates' names on the voting papers. Previously, we have had just alphabetical name by surname, but the last couple of elections, it has been random, where every voting paper has a different order of the names. So, yeah, that's. Do you need me to say anything else?
No, we can have a discussion on that.
Thank you.
Happy to do that. But then I think Ms. Fabry wants to come in and have a chat as well. Thank you.
Yes,
right.
that is different.
Yeah, but we're going to put it into this. Yeah, yes, thank you. All right, any comments from anyone, please? Where's our yellow hands? Oh.
Mine's a brown hand, Your Worship.
Councillor Shilter had his hand.
Right, Councillor Narport, then Councillor Shilter.
Yep, I've read through the report and my recommendation was to go with option 3.
Thank you. Councillor Shilter. You're on mute, Councillor Shilter.
Yeah, I'm with Councillor Napo. We've done it the last 2 elections, and I think it works. Yeah, and it's fair. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments, Councillor Lucina?
I'm happy also with the system as it was last year, last election.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. All right, Ms. Fabry, would you like to just have an update, councillors, on the pre-election period, etc., that we just need to be mindful of? Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. Yes, so I was just going to say, I'm just going to let Vicky sort of kick off the first bit of that, and then I'll chime in. We've got a very organised tag team going.
Awesome, thank you. Go for it.
Okay, so basically what we're trying to do is ensure that no councillors actually, and that's the sitting ones, which are yourselves, and potential ones, get into trouble. This is a very, as you're aware, it is a regulated election. So there is an outline for the candidates. So the pre-election period is the 8th of July 2022 to the 8th of October 2022. Now, protocols that we're going to talk about today don't just apply within this period, they can apply from now on. Your nominations will open on the 15th July and they will close on the 21st of August. There's a large amount of information already that Kerry has put onto our website, including a document that is produced by Taitara regarding the election protocols. Now, I would very much recommend that you go to that and read it because it has some really good information in it. But the key points, and our electoral officer, who is Warwick Lamb, will be attending a future meeting to present the election protocols to you in more detail. But a few key points in the meantime. Council and council staff must not promote or endorse or be perceived to promote or endorse any candidate, including sitting members. Council buildings and facilities must not be used for electioneering purposes. For example, electioneering vote for me flyers, posters and other collateral cannot be displayed or held on counters of any of our facilities. This includes the offices, libraries, leisure facilities, wastewater treatment plants, and any other council facility. You are elected members until the election. However, you must be mindful of ensuring that you keep your campaign separate from businesses as usual. An example would be, and please don't bring electioneering flyers to a council meeting. Kerry, I'll pass to you.
Thank you, Vicky. Morena, everybody. The use of council resources for electioneering purposes for re-election purposes is not allowed. And this includes such things as, this is not exhaustive, stationery, postage, internet photocopiers, email, computers, council branding, social media channels, tablets, telephones, etc., explicitly for campaign purposes, allowing members to access council resources to communicate with constituents and possible voters, even in their official capacities as current councillors, could create a perception that councillors helping sitting members to promote their re-election over new candidates. An example of this is if a candidate who's a sitting member sends an email to a group of people as part of their election campaign, it must come from a private email address and not from your South Waikato email address. So hopefully that's fairly clear. Council public communications, where possible, we try to avoid profiling sitting members during this period. An example would be media statements and social media posts. Just by way of an example, and this obviously is it's not a real example. If, for instance, the trade training centre that's being constructed at the entranceway to Tokoroa was being officially opened in July, it would ordinarily be appropriate for us to get the mayor, for instance, to cut the ribbon on that opening. Because it's during the pre-election period, we would avoid doing that and we get somebody else to cut the ribbon. This is countered by something like the production of the annual report, for instance, where it's appropriate for a message from the mayor to be included in that report. The latter is an essential part of business as usual, and the former is not business as usual, if that helps with some clarity. Social media, council's Facebook page can't be used for electioneering purposes, and any material or electioneering comments or collateral or posts will be removed and unfortunately will block the poster during that period. And we won't, council's Facebook page can follow pages like we do with the Tito Ward community page, for instance, and the Genuine Tokoroa page, etc. We won't be following any individual candidate pages, if that makes sense. And candidates are advised not to rate or tag or comment on council's posts during that period. Hoardings, this is your billboards where you put them around town. This document is currently being worked on. We need to liaise with Parks, Roading, Wakakotahi, and somebody else. Can't remember now. Never mind.
Planning.
Just on where those sites are. I don't think that they're going to change much from last time, except for maybe one or two properties where we permitted hoardings, but we no longer own those properties, so we'll have to take those off the list. But that's being finalised, and it forms part of the candidate information booklet that will be available in due course. The last point I want to make is that council staff also receive election protocol guidance. And one key point is to ask candidates not to ask staff to endorse them as candidates or help them with their campaign in their personal capacity, and not to ask staff for favours like photocopying or putting up flyers, etc. Staff are advised to take an apolitical view, and it puts them in a very difficult position if that situation occurs. So we just ask you don't do that. Like Vicky said, we're going to get Warwick Lamp, our electoral officer, who is the absolute expert in this area, to come in and talk to you at a later point. If I've got any questions for either myself or Vicky at this time.
Thank you, Kerry. I'm just going to, where are we? Questions. Councillor Glusina. Councillor Glusina, can you, okay. Councillor Glusina.
Yeah, just to get confirmation that the rules and things which are appropriate apply to all candidates, not just council candidates. So everyone who's out there in the public who's might be watching this YouTube video will say that these are the rules for them as well. And it's important to promote that as a wider rule distribution than just the sitting councillors. That's my main point. And anyone that comes to talk to the council about it, that should also be on YouTube for everyone to see.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, absolutely, Councillor Glissina. It's a very good point, which is why the election pages on the website are applicable to all candidates. Yeah, I guess it's around that existing relationship with the sitting members, which is where we raise it here. But yes, you're absolutely right. Everything will be captured in the candidate information booklet and on our website, and it applies to everybody.
Thank you.
And through Your Worship, there will also be a pre-candidate meeting run by our electoral officer, Warwick Lamp, at a separate time.
Thank you. Who else had their hand up that wanted to speak? Sorry. No? All right, question from me then, please. I am a sitting candidate at the moment. I'm not restanding. So where do I sit in these rules, please?
Because you're not standing.
Yes, please.
Your Worship, my comment with that would be you need to assume that you might be standing because you change your mind. So it's, even though you're not going to stand, you have to treat it as if you are going to run.
Right.
So you are captured by all of this, just in case you change your mind.
Okay.
And also about support for other councillors. So it's as if you're running as well, even though you're not.
All right.
I think it's nice and simple.
Okay. So, excuse me, please, through the chair.
So through the chair, I'm just checking with Miriam. Once nominations have closed, would Jenny then be free to speak?
I think you need to ask Warwick about how far that goes, because I'm not an expert in that space. I've got to be careful, but yes, obviously it's a different position.
Yeah, I can understand the first piece. I just worried about the other.
Yeah, and obviously some people don't show their hand about whether they're going to run to the last minute. Usually down.
Yes. So I remember at a previous election, and it was somebody was standing for the Mayoralty, and a flyer went out, and on that flyer it said along the bottom, endorsed by sitting councillors 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and this flyer went out. So was that not correct to do?
I'm not sure the situation, but obviously as councillors you can run as a group or on a campaign.
Yeah.
And that's part of your campaign as long as it's done separate from council.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So that's a separate point, and all of these things should be answered by Warwick when he gets into detail. And really the reason we're raising with you today is just don't be afraid of it. We're just trying to protect you as sitting councillors and make sure that everything is done with clean hands. That's just because you're going to go into a pre-election period and you're going to have other candidates who are not sitting. We just need to make sure we do it right. That's all.
Good. No, that's cool. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Ms. Fabry. Yes.
I just wanted to add on that this in the document that Vicky referred to that's on our website, it's actually a tab that's called Electioneering Protocols or something like that. That document from Taiatura has got a lot of real life examples of things that have actually happened, and then they kind of outline the example and then they basically analyse it. So those are quite useful to read as well.
Thank you.
So Kerry, it might be nice to send that link for Taiatura to the councillors. That might be helpful.
Good. All right, thank you for that. There being no more discussion then, I'm going to, there is recommendations here, 2 recommendations. We received the report that that the names of the candidates for election of the 2022 District Council and Tito Community Boards elections shall be listed. And have I got a mover? I've had 3 people indicate that random order by surname is their preferred option. Have I got a mover and a seconder for those two recommendations? Councillor Shorter moving it, Councillor Napor seconding it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against, carry, thank you. So we will be doing it by random order by surname.
Which is option 3.
Option 3, yeah.
For the minutes.
Thank you. 6.5 on page 27, and this is the Choose Local marketing campaign in support of local businesses. Mr. Bowden, I thought I saw you online.
I think we're loading the presentation.
Oh, we're loading the, okay, thank you.
Good morning, Your Worship, councillors and fellow staff.
Morning, Mr. Bowden.
I'm just going to check if my colleague, Miss Coffin, is online. Miss Coffin, are you there?
Yes, I'm online. Can you hear me?
Superb.
Can we see you? There you are.
Here we go.
So with your indulgence, Your Worship, I thought I'd start by introducing Miss Coffin, who hasn't had the opportunity because of COVID to meet elected members. So I thought I'd quickly introduce Miss Coffin, who is our digital marketing coordinator and joined council at the start of the year to replace Mr. Sedano. I'm sure you'll all join me in welcoming her to council. She's doing a great job so far.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bowden, and welcome, Michaela, is it?
Yes, thank you.
To South Waikato District Council. Yeah, how long have you been in the business here so far? When did you start?
I started at the start of January after the holiday break.
Oh, goodness me, you're an old hand now, and you're well and truly entrenched in the organisation. It's good to have you on board anyway, and I hope you're enjoying your job, although it's a bit difficult at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. It has been a bit strange starting and then moving to working from home for a while, so I haven't got to meet as many people as I'd like so far.
Look forward to you getting back into the office anyway. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So can I take the report as read, as well as the attachment? With your indulgence, what I thought I'd do is give you a brief overview of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and the why is the most important aspect. Then we'll briefly run through a few slides, and with the Council of Elected Members, we'll then take questions if that's okay.
It's fine.
So as the cover report indicated, the spread of Omicron has presented a fairly challenging situation for local businesses. It's not just confined to the South Waikato, it's a national issue. Predominantly that's been most keenly felt by those businesses operating in the retail and the hospitality space, where we're seeing significant reductions in footfall and consumer spend. We're seeing consumer behaviour significantly impacted, where people are in effect operating under de facto lockdown, self-imposed, but that is having a detrimental impact on trading conditions for a lot of our local businesses. There is a limited degree of government support that's not likely to be extended to the scale that we saw before. I had that confirmed to me on a meeting yesterday. So we are where we are in terms of the challenges that we face, and I think we can expect those challenges to continue for some time, especially as we head into the winter period. Staff have assessed the market dynamics, looked at the trends, and suggesting that what we do is we implement a campaign to support local businesses. The campaign is designed and predicated on changing consumer behaviour by using motivating factors. The two key motivating factors are that generally people are excited about doing things to benefit themselves, but they're also motivated and excited about doing things to benefit others. So we're using those two key psychological drivers in terms of what we're planning. So without further ado, if I could just move through a few of the slides. Billy, would you be able to be so kind? So it's around choosing local, making a conscious decision to support your local businesses, be they retail, be they services, be they hospo. And we've connected through with other organisations to deliver this campaign. Next slide, please. Sorry, Billy, could you move to the next slide? Thank you. So it's predicated on the principle of a competition, but it's a competition that's universal in that effectively, if we change consumer behaviours, every business wins. Every business wins because increasing the confidence of our community to go out and support their local businesses means that more people are visiting those businesses. They're going into a business, they're taking a selfie with the owner or a member of the staff, and they're posting that or they're sharing that to email with a specific address. And that effectively enables both the individual and the business to enter into a draw for that week. Next slide, please. The draw is predicated on a 12 weekly draws. It's a 12-week competition. And the business that's drawn out of the hat that week wins a half-page advert in the local paper. They also win adverts on on radio and on local radio, the local interview with Rokawa Vibes, for example, enabling them to support both their business, but also to reinforce why local supporting their business is important to them and their family. Next slide, please. And we then move into, there's a number of ways in which we'll promote this. So I will now hand over to our digital marketing expert, Michaela.
Hi, so we're going to use various marketing channels to promote the competition, but also to promote choosing local. And we're going to do that with engaging content and paid ads. The main ways we will be doing this is with social media, primarily on Facebook and Instagram, and we will also be using younger generations apps such as TikTok and Snapchat. We will also have radio ads for 12 weeks on the Hits, News Talk and Rokawa Vibes promoting the competition and getting people to support local. We will also be launching with a full page ad in the South Waikato News, and we'll follow that up the following week with another full page ad just to remind people to get out there and support their local businesses. If we could go to the next slide, please. So these are some of the mock-ups that I've done for what they will look like. So on the left, we have what the business feature and their business ad would possibly look like in the newspaper. And in the middle, we have the full page ad, and to the right, we have a half page ad as well. Next slide, please. These are some of the posters we will be handing out to local businesses. So we've got an A4 size on the left and an A3 on the right, which would preferably be displayed in the window of stores, but it's up to the business how they'd like to display them. To distribute the posters, the Tokoroa Business Association and Pride and Potataro will be handing them out in their districts, while our team will distribute the posters in Tiro. Next slide, please. This is an example of how we will be promoting the competition on social media. So we've done a few pictures just to do it in a user-friendly way so people can see how they would nominate a business. Next slide, please. And then this slide is what we will be using to promote Choose Local. As you can see, it's pictures of local business owners and also locals out in the community enjoying some of our businesses. So we want to use them to tell compelling stories about why people should be choosing local, and they can put a face, they'll recognize the face that we're going to be using as someone local. And the next slide is just an example post of what type of story we will be telling when we do it. And then back to you, Mr. Bowden.
Thank you, Ms. Coffin. If we can move to the next slide, Billy. So just in terms of the people aspect, that your elected members will recognise that that themology connects through to what we're proposing for the town entry statements work that we're doing in terms of people being at the essence of our brand. So there's a connection here with what we're planning to do in that space over the forthcoming months. In terms of the key dates, the campaign due to kick off tomorrow. Well, it actually launches officially on Monday, but posters will start being handed out tomorrow following today's discussion with council. The first winner will be drawn on the 11th of April. So that basically gives us a 2-week runway period, which the focus of that 2-week period will be to communicate to businesses how the campaign works so they understand it, and to communicate to individuals through social platforms, through mainstream media and through radio, how the campaign works from their perspective. Then we do a weekly draw thereafter, and then the campaign's due to finish mid-June. If the campaign's particularly successful, we may choose to extend that. That will be based on consultation with elected members, but also, most importantly, with the business community itself. But I think what it does is it gives us an opportunity over what will be a very difficult 3-month period to actively support local businesses and to enable our community to show their support for local businesses and to demonstrate that we want these businesses to be here when we come out the other side of Omicron. That's our presentation. We thank you for the time to present the campaign to elected members, and I'm happy to, through the chair, open up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Questions? All right. Well, we'll go straight to the questions and then we'll have some comments later. Councillor Shorter.
Mr. Bowden, thank you for your presentation. So what we're actually saying is we're picking out, or someone picks out 12 businesses out of 200 or 300 we have in the district. In my view, council should be above that. If, for example, a cafe in Tira wins and the cafe across the road doesn't, so that cafe who doesn't get picked is subsidizing actually the other cafe. We should be promoting the whole district, and not just individual 12 businesses in the whole of the district. I'm sorry, but that's the way I see it, having been in business. And I think this is completely unfair to the losers in this competition. Completely unfair, because they also subsidizing the winners. I'm completely against it. Thank you.
Mr. Bowden, have you got a comment, please?
Yes, sure, Worship. I can understand why you might perceive it in that way, Councillor, and it's not an unreasonable position. But I think what I would restate is that by driving consumer behaviour, every business wins. If we do nothing,
no, it doesn't.
With respect, Councillor, if each business is seeing more people coming in, taking pictures in their store and entering the competition, they're getting increased footfall. I'm not sure, and I'm surprised that any business would take the view that they don't want additional people coming into their business.
All what we're doing is we're giving 12 business advertising in a local paper, radio, and to top it all off, where in the radio advertising, where is Cruise FM, for example? They're not there. Okay, which you can only
Yes, you may respond, Mr. Bowden.
We have investigated other broadcasters, but we have to take a view on what's the most cost-effective package. So we have a package here where we've got stations which have extraordinarily big reaches, but we also have Rokawa FM to provide some local context in terms of the radio support that's available. We're not able to broadcast using all radio stations because it would be cost prohibitive, conscious of the point you make about ratepayer dollars. Just to confirm, the promotion is co-funded by a number of partners, one of which is council. So the total cost of this does not fall on the ratepayer, only a proportion of the cost. And my personal view, but obviously you're a business owner in the district, is that most businesses would welcome council taking a proactive approach to supporting all businesses to benefit through what is a difficult period. The nature of a competition is somebody has to win, but nobody in this competition loses. Thank you.
Okay, now, okay, the other thing is, I would like to say that, we should be leading by example and cutting out a local radio station it's we're promoting local, and we don't even we don't even walk the talk.
Thank you, Mr. Shorter. But you'd be aware that Rokar FM is a local radio station.
Yeah, but we got a couple of them.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Shorter. I understand your point of view. I just want to say, Mr. Bowden, I had a good read of this last night, and it brings back memories of my days as the town centre manager in Tukurua, and I used to manage the town centre organisation, and we had promotions like this on a regular basis, the shop local promotion. The businesses all came in on board, and particularly the idea of driving customers into businesses with the opportunity of them having a win, but the businesses having a win as well. In those days, though, some of the businesses and some of the promotions, the businesses had to pay to belong as well to the promotion. That's not happening here. And so I think that it's like any promotion. There's a win at the end of it. And because it's a random choice, it's not because any business is better than the other. I think I am very in support of this promotion, particularly the reasoning of shopping local, and I just remember the shop local campaigns that we used to have, and it a person can go to all the shops in town and take a photo with themselves and put that entry in. So everybody's got an opportunity, and it's a random win. Not that they have to do anything. So I think that takes the competition type side out of it, and that only some businesses are going to benefit, because I think all businesses are going to benefit. Have you, Mr. Bowden, talked to the business community, and what's their reaction been?
We've had, sorry, Your Worship, through the chair, we've had limited engagement thus far. We have talked to the business associations involved in Bataru and Tokoroa.
Yes.
But certainly, my father-in-law is a small business operator, and he would be desperate for his local council to be taking such an innovative stance. So I personally, from the discussions I've had, don't believe any business would be unhappy with encouraging people to come into their business.
I have that opinion as well. Right, Councillor Dane, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, sorry, Your Worship, about that. So I just wanted to know how the winners are chosen, because what makes me very nervous is that, I could nearly guess who the 12 winners will be. I reckon if I write it down now, I reckon I could get it pretty close to picking all 12 that would win. So how are the winners actually, how random is it? That's what I want to know. Is it done through a machine and the machine chooses it? Or is it done based on does someone pick? Because it's very easy to be biased. So I want to know how the winners are picked so it is actually fair.
Thank you to the chair, Your Worship. It's a very good question, Councillor Dane. It's a random draw each week. Obviously, the only people who are in the draw are those where someone has nominated their business through submitting a selfie via email. So you can only be chosen if, in fact, you've been nominated. Each week, one business will be nominated. They're all assigned a random number and a number in a spreadsheet, and then a number is drawn out of a hat to pick the business. So it's as without operating under national lottery rules, for example, it's as fair as we can be. But clearly, it's up to our community to get out and support those businesses by nominating those businesses. It's up to our businesses to promote the posters to show that they want to be in the competition. And that's obviously a choice for those businesses. They don't have to participate. But it's as random. It's done every week. The only rule surrounding the draw is that you can't win twice. So we get as much fairness as we can across the community.
Okay. That might be a public excluded question or answer, sorry. But what is the budget for this campaign?
The total budget is $18,320. That's the budget for the overall campaign, and the council contribution to that is $6,321.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dane. Councillor Glusina.
Yes, thank you for that report, Paul. I'm happy with the attempt and the work you've put in to try and make this work. Now, it's a big problem, and you can only tackle it bite by bite, and this was the first step. So that's great, and we will analyse the progress and see how it goes. I think it is the first step. We have got in this district quite a few non-shop front businesses. People operate all sorts of businesses from their garage, from their house, and at some stage we could, the categories could be increased to include digital businesses. They would have their advertising budgets as well. So yes, it's a great first step, and I'm happy to see it progress onwards to promote the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glusina. Did anyone else have their hands up? Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Nuttall.
Kia ora, Your Honour. Sorry, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that I'm quite excited about this campaign, and I would hope that we all take on board the fact that we're just trying to help businesses. And if we know of businesses that don't have front shops or are working from home, there's actually nothing stopping us from going to see them and taking a selfie and posting it. So from what I understand from Mr. Bowden's presentation, it's any business capable of entering. And it's so, for instance, if you know of a home-based business that you regularly buy from, then we can actually go and do that. Is that correct? So it doesn't limit anybody, whether or not they work from home. Councillor Dane, I'll come and take a photo in front of your truck. I've used your services before. You're an excellent handyman, maintenance person. I saw you shaking your head, but it's up to the customer. And remember, the customer's always right.
But wouldn't it be inappropriate for a councillor to put in an entry? I think it would be, me personally. But I do hear what you're saying, but I would not support that idea of a councillor because it's perceived bias or it's a perceived conflict there, I think.
So when I go and buy coffee from Peter's coffee shop, I'm biasing his business. If I used Mr. Glusina's legal services, I'm showing a bias because, in fact, having councillors that are business savvy is actually a benefit to our community.
Oh, it makes me nervous, but up to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Nuttall. Moving on, Councillor Lee, have you got something you'd like to add, or Councillor Wallace?
Yeah, I was just going to say, oh, sorry, Sandra.
Go, Thomas.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, yeah, thanks, Paul and the team. It's a very good concept, and you are right. Yeah, businesses are struggling, and we definitely need to get behind our local businesses anyway to promote them, use them, and spend our hard-earned cash in those businesses. So, yeah, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, councillors.
Yeah, just what I was going to ask too. Actually, it's kind of been covered, but thank you, Paul. I've read through it a few times, and I really like the concept now that I understand it fully. My question was, can councillors nominate a business? A little bit moving on from what Hamish said, not so much the business, but am I quite free to actually go and send a selfie in with a business, or are we excluded? That was just my question. How does that look?
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Mr. Bowden, yes.
Through your chairs, the worship. So thank you, Councillor Wallace. Yes, and to pick up on your question, Councillor Napo. yes, any councillor is a consumer, so you can go in and exert your privilege as a consumer to enter the competition. It would obviously be for the discretion of a councillor if they were drawn as the winner. Certainly the business would, I'm sure, welcome the publicity, but a councillor may take the view that they don't want to draw the actual consumer end of the prize and instead donate that to a charitable enterprise. So that, I think, hopefully then that allays any concerns that the elected members may have. But I think we shouldn't exclude elected members as consumers and members of this community from going out there and purchasing goods and services. In fact, I encourage that as much as possible. What I would ask respectfully is that we get behind this promotion and that we use our own social platforms to promote this as widely as possible, even if we are not posting from individual businesses. I think it would be great if elected members were promoting the campaign. And I go back to my original comment, everybody wins. Individuals win, businesses win, community wins.
Councillor Machin.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I support this, Paul. And if there's any worries about the randomness of the draw, there are random number selectors. I can think of a number of ways of doing that, and if necessary, we can use the old expression, drawn under police supervision. I'm sure we could get a local constable to stand and make sure it is fair. So I'm quite happy to move the recommendation as it is recorded in the minutes, or the agenda, I should say.
So are you, thank you for that, Councillor Machin. So are you, Mr. Bowden, wanting a second recommendation that South Waikato District Council endorses the concept of the campaign? Do you want to add that, or is this just for information? It's already happening, it started. All right, so.
It was, sorry, Your Worship, it's just really to provide elected members with an overview of what we're doing, because we are launching next week. We've had limited engagement, obviously, with the business associations within the district to get them on board, to understand what we're trying to achieve. But it was really just to get some feedback from elected members, and even if we may not agree with some of the feedback we've heard today, you can be assured that it's been noted and we have listened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden.
And Your Worship, I would also comment that, you know, the funding from other sources is a great level of funding as well. And so we wouldn't want to lose that funding.
Thank you. All right, so I've got Councillor Machin is moving the recommendation. Have I got a seconder for the recommendation, please?
Yep, happy to.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Councillor Shorter, would you like your vote recorded? You would? Yes, okay, thank you. Mr. Bowden, thank you very much for the effort that has gone into making this campaign happen. I wish you all the best with it. I'm sure that the businesses will be enthusiastic with it, and we just have to get it out there, get behind it, and get the local people shopping local and supporting local business, because you're right, we need our businesses here at the end of this. It's scary times at the moment, so anything that we can do to support them, I'm sure they will be very appreciative of. So thank you very much for that, for you and Ms. Coffin as well.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the kind comments, but I'd certainly recognise the significant contribution of Ms. Coffin to this campaign. She's done an absolutely first-class job for somebody who's only just joined council. So the creative genius behind this is all her work. So I'm just the front man. But thank you for your time today, elected members, and I hope you have a great council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving on then, please. We have done that. Last one on our agenda is members' information requests. And are there any members' information requests from councillors, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Napo. Councillor Wallace.
I've got a couple. I had a member, somebody asked me about the old soccer building, the old soccer club rooms in Totara Park in Bataduru. It's continues to be an eyesore. And the other day too, I know when we went to the event centre, there was mention of some of the other old buildings that are actually in the sports event centre. So I'm just sort of wondering where we're at with some of these old buildings that really do need to be pulled down. So the old soccer club rooms in Totra Park is what someone was asking about the other day. So I'm just wondering if we can have some sort of update on what's happening with that.
Thank you. Ms Terrace.
Your Worship, I understand that since I've been here, there's been a request to do a review of council properties, and so I think that's underway at the moment, Councillor Wallace. So can you confirm that that's the case if you're still there, or Kerry? I think we're already underway with that. Council's property.
Yes, we are.
Yes, so just to let you know that we are doing exactly what you've requested, Councillor.
Cool, thank you. And I had one other one as well, and so it came to my attention maybe that work at maybe looking at a presence in Putaruru, like maybe at the moment I know that Paniao is working from the hub in Tokoroa. Is he looking at a spending some time in Putaruru, like as a part-time? Is that something I can ask?
We will have to follow that up.
Would you like me to respond to
that? Ms Diamond, can you?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the Work It program is for throughout the district, and there is an intention for there to, the Work It to have a presence both in Putaruru and Tiro, and seeing how we can even get out to Arapuni if there is a presence required out there. So it is about being present in all our main towns, and not only in Tokoroa, although the home base will remain at the Impact Hub.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Councillor Dane.
Right, Councillor Dane.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if we could have an update of the Omicron status in our organisation. And I noticed that the polls were are closed from 2 p.m. Afterwards. And I was wondering, is there a possibility that there's a chance that we could alternate those hours? So maybe it opens early one day, closes late the next day. So then, because the different people go at different times, for example, school kids, they're not going to be able to make it to the pools during that time period. Is there an opportunity there to alternate the hours of the pools? Maybe not, maybe.
Councillor Dane, as far as I'm aware, we're really stretched in staffing for the pools at the moment. You would have seen my email that we've got 20 odd people with COVID, probably more today. It seems to be the pools has been particularly hard hit, and it could get to the stage where we actually can't operate the pools. So we're not there yet, but that was my update from yesterday. I think we're just trying to manage with what we've got at the moment. It's pretty difficult, but I will take that on board about altered times, and I'll talk with you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Right, are there any other members of information? Otherwise, I've got.
Yes, you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lee, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's just it's actually a query for Ted actually about the progress on the traffic calming for Pelican Way and Dumfries Road, please.
It's in the report. Councillor Thomas, I think it's in the next committee report. If you have a look, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Anderson's no longer online. So
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Tim.
Oh,
okay. You might want to comment.
Yes, I can, through you, Your Worship. The final bit of ceiling that was that needs to go down will be actioned in the next month or so. I know that has caused some concern to residents in Pelican Place because of the dust, so that has been actioned. The traffic calming prices that we've received from the contractor are a little bit higher than what we had expected. So we're in the process of trying to negotiate with the contractor. If we're not able to get a resolution with the contractor, we may seek an alternative competitive price. The intentions are that the traffic calming would occur, will be constructed before the road is opened for public use, so we can finish the road, keep a bollard in place. But yes, the progress on that traffic calming has not progressed as quickly as we had expected, and it is on my list to be chased up over the next month or two.
Thank you.
Just like to add to that we should make it a priority, and the key reason I say it is we need to open up those council sections because people are screaming out, and with the building activity going on, we need quality places for quality people coming into town. So I always keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. So I've got a couple here I just want to share with you. We've got our certificate for our best loo, our Leaf Place toilet, Tukuroa. We won the 2021 Best Loo Award, so we have a plaque and a certificate. I don't know where we're going to put it at the moment, but we'll take some advice from staff on where we place our best loo award. I think that's pretty cool. So that's number one. Second one is I've had a card from the Butler family and a very sincere thank you for council renaming Ben Alder Crescent Park to Butler Park, recognising the Butler family, who was an old family and had the farm along Balmoral Drive and Ben Alder Crescent. They particularly wanted to thank Phil Parker and his team for what they felt was over and above dedication. They were thrilled with the day and the renaming ceremony that they organised themselves, but we supported them. So that was nice to get some really positive feedback there. I just want to update you on the Communities for Local Democracy and where that's heading at the moment. We were supposed to be down in Wellington yesterday for the meeting with the Minister. Unfortunately, she had to cancel at the last moment. One of her children has COVID, so she had to fly home. We didn't get to see her. So Communities for Local Democracy now has 32 councils out of 67 as part of that group, and the work that has been done by Malcolm Alexander and Castalia, who is the consultant company, have come up with two alternative solutions rather than the four entity solution that government put forward. The two solutions that we were going to put forward to the Minister yesterday were that the options were to the four entity model was that the council owned plus a regulation option would see the current model modified through the involvement from newly established Taumata Arawai. So it was pretty well about councils get on with the business, and we have a regulator there that oversees our provision of safe drinking water and safe water. So that was just one option. It's pretty well status quo, but with regulation. The other one was that the council-owned enterprise model would see councils owning shares in a regional organisation. And that would own and manage the three water services for the area. The councils would then be able to remain accountable to our voters and our water customers. So have I got those options right? I think I have.
I think you have.
Yeah. So those are the two alternatives to the four entity model. We've just then had the working group that government set up to look at options and to make recommendations to government on the proposals of those four entities and what they would do. The terms of reference were quite tight, so it wasn't about putting forward options, but it was about working within the four entity models and looking at best practice within those models. And they came up with a couple of things to protect the three water assets against privatisation, and that was something that everybody's concerned about, and to protect community ownership. The working group recommended that the four water service entities would be set up in a public shareholding structure. So they are working within the four entity structure that government has has proposed. So they're protecting privatisation. That meant that councils hold shares in the 4 entities on behalf of their communities, and they have the right to vote on a proposal for the entity to be sold or privatised. So that's been a concern right from the start. However, how it was proposed is that of the entities, the 22 councils in our area, because it was up to 50,000 people, you get 1 vote. So our say would be reasonably modified with only 1 vote in that area. There has been talk about other types of voting and perhaps basing it on how Local Government New Zealand works when we vote at conference and where we each, and I know that South Waikato has 3 votes. Auckland has 16, and I think that goes by size of population.
It's a combination of district size and population, and it's just a weighted approach.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily that accurate, but that's what they do.
Right, and that's what they do. So that's been a proposal on so that local communities have more say. The other issue, so privatisation was a big issue, representation as well and how that would work. The other one was to protect the local voice. The working group recommended the establishment of sub-regional representative group committees that would feed into the regional representative groups. So that really puts the customer about 4 levels under the decision making, and so the bureaucracy is increased rather than decreased, and it takes customers away from even further away from the decision making. That's my opinion, but that's is something that they have proposed. Additionally, the group recommends that council representatives should have a mix of representatives from urban, provincial and rural councils. That's in these working groups, and that's a fair comment. And the working group also recommended the establishment of an independent water services ombudsman who has jurisdiction over all the public-facing activities of the water entities, and who, in case of a dispute, works towards a fair and reasonable outcome for the parties involved. So those were the findings of the working group, working within the very strict terms of reference that government gave them. Certainly, Communities for Local Democracy don't think that goes anywhere near far enough to protecting the 3 waters or promoting the community input into what's being proposed. So that's just the latest update. I'll let you know when the next meeting with Nanaia Mahuta is going to occur, and Communities for Local Government, Local Democracy will be presenting again, because we've already met with her and the other political parties here, getting our solutions in front of her, and I'll let you know the outcomes. So there's been quite a bit of work done in that space, but there's still a long road to hoe, I think. Any comments or questions there? No.
Yes, I've got a comment.
Sorry, Councillor Lee.
Yeah, you speak at the moment saying water customers. Well, you know, the water customers are actually the ratepayers who actually have paid for the assets that the government are trying to strip from them. So I think, or my opinion, is that you know, if the government actually want the assets from our community, they should actually have a referendum and actually put it out to our communities to see what they want, as opposed to what the government want to impose on us. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. I must say that this was going to be before the House. The legislation was going to be before government before the end of last year. Then it was pushed out to March, and now it's been pushed out to July. And I do know, and I think you've probably read, that the Minister has admitted that she's made mistakes on the way, and that she has underestimated the knowledge that councils have of their infrastructure, but also the pressures that councils have had on where the money is actually spent. So things have slowed down in the water space, and I think communities for local democracy have played a big part in that, slowing of that legislation down. So where to from here? Everybody recognises that we need change, because we do have issues of affordability going forward, particularly our council with stormwater in the future. But I think the government understands that the four entity model perhaps is not a popular model. Phil Goff has come out, and he was on the working party, as was Jason Smith, the Mayor of Kaikoura. They were on the working party, and they've come out actually basically saying that what the working party has come up with is not supported, and they're backing off from that working party outcome. All right, anything else? No? Cool. And the last thing, I have got a one-pager here which I won't talk to you about, but it's an update on the Rma Reforms. We've got Councillor Narkor sitting on that committee, but I have just got a one-pager that I will email you all to update you on where the Rma Reforms are sitting at the moment. All right. Thank you, everybody, then. If there's no more members' information requests, I'm going to close the public part of the council meeting. If you
10 minutes, what's it 5 past?
Okay.
Make a cup of tea, go to the toilet, whatever.
Okay, so you've got 10 minutes at 5 past 11, and we'll go into community assets, Councillor Machin's committee. So thank you, everybody, for this morning. Good meeting. Thank you.
Through just run through the apologies will be as discussed earlier on. 2 apologies there. The agenda has been circulated. Are there any conflicts of interest? Appears to be none. I think firstly what I should do, and Jenny's already done it, but I welcome Debbie Lascelles, who will be giving us their community report a bit later. So welcome, Debbie, to my meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, the minutes are as circulated. Would somebody move that as a true and correct record? Somebody put their thumb up?
Happy to move,
Yeah.
Bill. Yeah, Councillor.
Okay, then. Thomas, yes, Lee and Lucina. Any matters arising from the minutes? Do you have anything to say?
Doesn't appear so.
Rightio. So that is the minutes done. Councillor Peckley's not with us, but he got a reply to his shining light inquiry at the last meeting, so that should be completed. Right, I will move on to the reports. The first is from the Assets Group Manager, Mr. Anderson.
On page 10.
Yes, page 10 it is. Where has he got to?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the report as read, and I guess the key thing I'd like to highlight is that this year is indeed a very challenging year from a service delivery, both from operation and maintenance, but also CapEx. The supply issues that commenced about 2 years ago have still not been fully resolved. We're still having difficulties getting key materials and plant into the country. The locking of the border has also meant that finding resources to do work has been incredibly challenging. Recruitment has been a real difficulty for us, and it's just as challenging for our contractors. And of course, the lockdown that Auckland had early this financial year continued much longer than anyone had expected, and we then ran into the lockdown, which affected Cambridge and Hamilton. And then since then, we've been both ourselves, as council staff, but as well as contractors, have been getting a lot of staff that need to isolate at home, and that's really hampering our work production. So right across the field, we are having some real challenges delivering CapEx as well as OpEx. In the report on page 11, we've highlighted some of the bigger projects. So using the 80-20 rule, there are just really 2, 4, 6 projects there that are where about 80% of our unspent money is shown, and so there's a total of about $10.1 million of underspend expected at the end of this financial year that will need to be carried over into the new financial year because of the challenges associated with COVID and the impacts on our delivery of projects. I'll take any other questions you wish. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, anybody have any questions of Ed? Yes.
I just want to make a comment, please. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Your executive summary was very, very good. Thank you for that. It was something that we've all been thinking about. We weren't sure how we were going. We randomly asked you how a project's going, but this update, letting us know what to expect, I was very happy with. And thank you for your report.
Okay. Right, thank you, Your Worship. Now, anybody else have a question of Mr. Anderson?
Yes, please, Deputy. I just wanted to know if we could have an update on the project regarding installation of audio visual in the chamber. I was thinking about this a while back, and from memory, I remember it. I thought we sort of looked at January of this year, but I can understand with constraints around supply. Do you have an update on that one by any chance?
Yep.
Debbie, you would like to add something to this conversation?
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Dane. I can confirm that we have received tenders for that project, and we are about to start looking through those tenders next week in order to select.
Happy with that, Councillor Dane?
Yep, that's that'll do. Thank you.
Can I add, Mr. Chairman, my understanding is it's a priority that we realise that councillors are looking forward to that project happening as soon as possible, so we're aware of that.
Okay.
I have got another one. Sorry, I should have included it. When I look at the assets CapEx expenditure and the key projects, and I look at the roading program, and we've got the designs for the Leith Place roundabout and the Bridge Street. That is such a high profile area. I know that it's an issue, but I don't know where the sense of where other councillors are, but because it is so high profile, are we able to make that a priority? And that's the trees down the middle of Bridge Street. I know Mr. Parker's got a report in later about what we do with the centre island, but there's so many other options as part of the greater CBD development. Is it prudent to replant, and then when we do decide on what we're going to do with it, have to get rid of them and start again? I just don't want to see that left this time next year and we've still got broken pavers and it's looking like it is at the moment. So that was a question about priority and what we can do there. The second one does concern me about the Tukurua Library and the community hub, where I read that there's significant seismic upgrade works and also asbestos presence in the buildings that we are looking at in Leith Place, and the comment that these issues combined with the asbestos may make this location too expensive to place. It really worries me for the library and the hub because of the the focus we were going on that already.
Okay.
I wonder if I might say something more in non-public.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Perhaps the library and hub, we could talk in public excluded. In
Yeah.
terms of the Leaf Place and the development, do you want to make some comments on that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I had been putting some pressure on the roundabouts to get resolved. We've got a design and we've received some prices which are higher than what we had envisaged. And I need to check whether those prices are reflecting a reasonable escalation, because the baseline we've got is from 12 months ago, and there has been quite an escalation in prices since then. But the real challenge we've got with those roundabouts is that the hot mix, there is such a huge waiting list for hot mix. I know that some of our neighbouring councils have not been able to deliver some key projects because of the limited capacity of the plants running the hot mix, that it's unlikely that we could do it this financial year, and as a result we'd need to do it next year. But Her Worship has actually identified the fact that when we're looking at those roundabouts, we also need to look at the revitalisation of Bridge Street, the street trees, the parking layout. And so my thoughts are that we set up a workshop in the next month or so just to go through and make sure that whatever we're doing leaves the options open for into the future, rather than closes the door on options.
That's a good idea. Sounds okay to me. And we will discuss the library community project non-public a little later. Nobody else? Aaron? No?
No.
Radio. Okay, that being the case, we've got the 3 recommendations there. We've got somebody who would like to move, Danny? Overall, the lot? Don't see anybody put their hand up.
I'm happy to move.
Okay then, thank you, Your Worship. Mayor
I'll get a
moves.
second.
Second, thank you, Sandra. So that's been moved and second. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Right, now we move on to Debbie, your report. This is like
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is a pretty standard update from my group. I think the key thing to note from us is that our customer-facing areas are being pretty impacted by Omicron, and that this is going to it is creating disruptions to our usual services. And so we just ask for your patience during this time, and we are endeavouring to meet our community's needs as best as we can. So both Kitty and I are here today, and we will endeavour to answer as many of your questions as we can.
Right, the report was there in front of you. Warm Homes Clean Air is away again, of course, with the winter coming. It's good to see community grants. You still chair community grants, don't you, Councillor Lee?
Yes, I am. This is just the lead up to the grants round will be in, I think it's July, if I remember correctly, when we actually sit and decide. But this is just to let everybody, or let the community know that they're coming up and to apply for if they need a grant.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else wish to comment on them?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Certainly you can, Councillor Wallace.
It's regarding Anzac. I just had this question. I was going to do it as an email, but when I was at the Plaza meeting on Monday night, they were inquiring about Anzac, what's happening with Anzac services this year, because I know last year there was a bit of confusion around the Butaruru Plaza one. So I'm just wondering if there's work, what's happening with the Anzac in Butaruru, whether it's at the Plaza, whether there's work being done, where that's sitting. It's mentioned, but there's not a lot of information there. So I'm just wanting more information on the Anzac, where that's sitting for Butaruru, please.
Kitty, are you happy to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that, Councillor Wallace. We have received an email from the Plaza, from Ashley at the Plaza, and Tracy or Mrs. Has been able to contact and work that through. What we're finding with ANZAC is with the reducing number of servicemen, the reducing number that are able to actually come and support from the active servicemen at the moment, so the Defence Force, that's starting to reduce. So we're looking at what are different ways that we can do it, and whether it's how we reset this for this the ANZAC service in this climate. So they are having conversations. That is our events coordinator, that's Tracy and Ashley. So I did ask Tracy to get back to Ashley on that and start coordinating. There may be having to be a joint of the Dawn and Civic, depending on how many people are available. It's just really difficult to we can't do it the old way, in short. So we have to look at the other options that we can do.
Thank you,
If I
appreciate
can
that.
make a comment, can we have information across the district about that? It's usually about now that we need to start thinking about Anzac Day. That would be really handy if just the higher level plan for Anzac Day. I know previously, when the first year of COVID, we had the standing at dawn at letterboxes, so it may even have to come back to something like that. So we really might have to just think totally outside the square.
Yeah, it'd be good to be certain, because as we're all aware, there was a number of issues last year.
Yeah.
From the Tokoroa perspective, I do talk on a regular basis with the president of the RSA, and he's reasonably happy with the way things are going here now. He's more confident than last year. But yeah, we need to know what the overall plan is and who will be speaking at each service, however it is conducted.
Yeah, those plans are just getting finalised this week, working with the national body as well. Tiro is been a bit of a challenge at the moment. As you would be aware, we work with a different RSA for Tiro compared to Tokoroa and Putararu, and that's down to numbers. So we're trying to work with both TCB and the RSA that services Tiro on how we can make sure that it is remembered out in Tiro as well.
Thanks, Kerry. Any other questions for community and assets? Community and strategy, I should say.
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. It's moved that the recommendation that the report be received and seconded by Councillor Schulter. Thank you. Been moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye. Aye. And against, it's carried. Which brings us on to 5.3, Bridge Street Median Tree Works update. So Phil, are you on the line? Mr. Parker? And there we are, yeah.
Oh, we need you up, your volume up a little bit. Oh.
Yes, you need your volume up. Thanks, Phil.
Sorry?
Okay.
What was that, sorry?
Your volume is very, very low, very hard to hear.
And for recording purposes, it might not actually record, so it just needs to be a bit louder.
Okay, I'll try and talk louder. My headphones aren't working.
Okay, that's a bit better now.
With a laptop. You all right now?
Yep.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Yes, so Untitled Report is read, just an update on the stump grinding works in the median, Bridge Street, and recommendations going forward in regards to landscaping options for that median. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Parker there?
Yeah, I have to say.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Parker, for the report. And I totally see the sense in that we need to do something in the short term for Bridge Street, because there's broken curbing and channelling, there's the stumps and there's holes, and it's not looking that flash at the moment. So in the short term, I guess I was concerned about planting the trees, but we need to do something. I recognise that. But we're also looking at the CBD revitalisation, and Bridge Street, although I understand it is a feeder street and a main street in Tukurua, but it gives us an opportunity to do something that is appropriate nowadays, more appropriate nowadays than it was previously. And having talked to one of the landlords just recently in Bridge Street, the idea had been mooted that we actually do away with those centre islands and have the angle parking in the middle of the street. They're wide enough Bridge Street is wide enough to take that, and whether we make it more pedestrian friendly and we can increase the size of the footpaths. I know this is all part of the big picture, but I'm wondering, are we able to prioritise that over something else, because it is such a high profile area, and rather than spend the money on the trees and tidying up the centre island, when it could be that in the future we do something different. It's just worrying me a little bit, that's all.
Comment from anybody else? Comment from Mr. Parker? Hamish, did you wish to say something?
Yes, yes, please, Deputy. Yeah, I would definitely support the korero that our worship is sharing, because just out of being prudent, like I don't want to see that we just, all the work that we've done and then we go and undo it all because of the design change. So what I would actually recommend is, while it doesn't look too attractive right now, I would support actually running that workshop first to actually figuring out what do we actually want to do in that space, so we can do it once and do it right, out of just being fiscal responsibility. And that it might look a little bit shabby at the moment, but it's actually working. It's actually still functional, it still works, and I don't see the big rush of having to do anything in the next 6 to 9 months. It's actually be good to get some sun in there through winter and all of that as well. So yeah, definitely support where our worship's coming from. It's just taiho, make a plan, act on that.
I think this report actually takes account of that, Mr. Parker, doesn't it? Because it says that it gives us time to consider the Bridge Street streetscape as a whole, and at the moment the plan's not put in there until 23-24, which is still some way off. So it does give us adequate time to discuss, and even with the probability that the new council will come in and they can set the tone, if you like, for what happens in that area.
Yep, yeah, I support that.
Thank you, Mr. Glusina.
Yes, I also support the idea of a workshop and a bit of time to work out what would be a good idea there. I've actually questioned the need for a physical island at that end of Bridge Street. It may be that whatever goes in there doesn't have to be solid and concrete and obstructive. We may be able to get away with something much lower scale in terms of an island, and perhaps a lot cheaper. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glusina. Anyone else wish to make comment? Do you have 6 recommendations there? Is anybody happy to move them individually or as a group? Hand up, somebody. Thank you, Councillor has moved, and Councillor Mr. Lee is seconded.
Yep.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, the motion is carried.
Can I just be against that one, because I just don't agree on recommendation 6? So can I just be noted that I'm against that?
Those trees felled in the 22-23 financial year. Those 2 millions will then be planted with the same tree genera. So you're objecting to the trees coming down, or what part of that?
Well, I would rather just, I don't recommend on planting anything, replanting anything there or doing anything like that. I would just rather I just want to stop.
I was just going to say, if I could.
Yes.
I'm not voting for it either, because my comment was going to be if we could lay it on the table till after we have a workshop, and then we make a plan as to what we're going to do. And it may be that we do go back to this in the meantime, but just.
Okay, so the objection is against point 6 in the main, is it?
Mr. Chairman, I think it affects 4 and 5 as well.
4 and 5, well.
I'm not sure there. If you're going to have a workshop.
So it's also number 2 about the proposal to just plant the current median strip again. So
Mr. Chairman, perhaps this report is a little bit too premature, given that you've agreed to have a workshop.
Yes.
So could the whole report lay on the table?
Yep.
And then come back after the workshop with perhaps some amendments to the recommendations or not?
Is everybody happy with that occurring?
The only question I have with Mr. Parker, does that stop you from doing essential maintenance, Mr. Parker?
Doing essential maintenance?
Doing essential maintenance.
Is there anything, if this lays on the table for a few months longer, will that stop you, will that muck you up in terms of your program?
No, that's fine. That's what I recommend as well. Lay it on the table at this stage. It doesn't affect in any way the normal maintenance that's going on under our open space contract. So I would be happy with that. We'll leave this on the table until we have discussions.
Right, yeah, look, what I'll do is I'll go back and revisit these recommendations one by one. Firstly, that the report be received. It will go from somebody, Councillor Lee, Councillor Napo, so that's 1 ticked off. Item 2, the procuring, planting the replacement trees is undertaken during the 23-24 year.
I think what was discussed was perhaps the whole report on the table, which means it just doesn't go anywhere until the workshop occurs. So none of the recommendations happen. Is that my understanding, councillors? Is that what you think?
I think you just need to.
I've seen a few heads nodding that. That being the case, we lay this on the table until a workshop has been held.
Yes.
Everybody
Happy to move that.
Yes.
Through the chair.
Thank you, Thomas and Councillor Sandra Wallace.
Yeah.
That being the case, we do finish the business there.
Can I make just one more comment? Sorry.
Sure.
I just want to also maybe, does it seem practical in the meantime that because I see that they do, like they're always cutting back the ivy. Is there an interest actually just next time they are in that area having to maintain the ivy, that they cut it right back? Is that possible? Because I struggle, it's an ongoing issue, that ivy, and it doesn't actually, it's just a rubbish gets chucked in there. Yeah, it's not really appealing.
Parker.
Yes, provision in the open space contract that they'd be kept obviously trimmed back off the curb and off the carriageway, but every so often they also need to be trimmed down to allow more fresh growth, and they start getting too high and they get older, they don't look as pleasant. So that's why we want to remove them completely eventually anyway. They are too rampant, yes, we continue to follow up with our contractors that people maintain and to put them lower coming in, in spring when you get some nicer looking regrowth.
I also want to mention that they do an amazing job. There's one lady there that's been there for years and she does an amazing job. So I want to give her a bit of credit there because she works hard to keep and maintain all of those gardens. But I would support that if they were interested in ripping the ivy out completely. I would support that because it is just
suggesting that it probably just grass it would be an alternative, Councillor Dane.
Yeah, well, yes, basically, just to tidy it up and get it ready for the new development of the area instead of just spending money and money and money, just keeping having to trim it back. I don't know.
Any comments, Mr. Parker?
Yes, thank you. So that, yes, that is why I put funding in the LTP for 2024 to have the ivy removed completely. But there was, from my memory, aspirations from councillors a few years ago when they were walking around the CBD wanting to see more colour in Bridge Street, which is why I had in the plans to remove the ivy and replace it with a ground cover that is going to be low maintenance but flowering to provide more visual interest. Grass can be another option. We do have to consider the traffic management plans and the time it takes to maintain a grass median, which particularly in the summertime grows.
Grass being thrown onto Bridge Street with the cut, I guess.
In this district, so that's
Okay.
options for traffic and so forth. Whereas ground covers are more lower maintenance than having to maintain well-growing grass. So
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Parker. Thanks, Councillor Dane. Any members' information requests? Does not appear to be any. That being the case, I'll close this meeting. And we have non-public. I don't know how long Jenny wants to take a break for.
Thank you. We can just have a 5-minute break while we change over, and we'll come back at 22 for non-public. Thank you.
I've just got to shoot home.